my interns, the one who was present for the 2019 final mock trial in Vino Veritas. So how does the Steno machine work? And Steno is shorthand for, or short for stenography. And shorthand began with Greg, and then in the 1800s, someone came up with the alphabet on the machine, shorthand on a machine they created. It was 1879, I believe, was when the first machine was created and produced. Previous to that, the Court reporters wrote the Greg shorthand on multiple pads of paper. And then the machine was created. You can see the growth and technology over the years to where we are on the right-hand side, one of the most current court reporting machines. And it's important for you to know that although you see the letters and numbers at the machine shorthand part, they don't actually show on the keyboard of a shorthand machine. Here is what it looks like. And all of those, so there are 22 keys. Some of the letters that are missing, you see S is repeated 3 times. They discovered that most words begin with the letter S, and that's why it takes up both banks of keys. On the left hand is your left hand is the initial consonants and words, and on the right hand is the final. And there are combinations. And the vowels down below, the I is missing, so E and U makes up I. If you have any questions at any time, please put them in the chat. So here's an example of what shorthand looks like. Up at the top, PRAF actually stands for paragraph. This is an example of machine shorthand from a steno keyboard with paper. And steno is written ST, and the PB stands for N, and then you come back for the final O. So here again, one of the modern stenographic machines on the right hand, the one on the left looks more like a regular keyboard, but those are the actual steno alphabet keys on the left. So I'm going to stop the share for a moment and pull up a 3-minute video that will explain it in more detail.
Ever wonder how court reporters can keep up with blazingly fast dialogue in the courtroom and get every word no matter how fast the testimony whips by? Or maybe while watching the news at the gym, you wondered how the live closed captioning works. Is there really someone behind the scenes typing that all out? Welcome to Stan's quick and dirty video on how Steno works. Steno, which is short for stenography, also known as shorthand, is an abbreviated symbolic writing method that increases speed and brevity of writing as compared to a normal method of writing a language, with the ultimate goal being the ability to write as fast as someone can speak. Back in the olden days, this was accomplished by means of a written shorthand system like Gregg or Pittman, in which series of lines, curves, dashes, and dots represented sounds, which had to later then be transcribed back to conventional text by the original stenographer. But before I get into modern stenography and how it differs from the keyboard you're probably sitting in front of right now, let's establish some baseline speeds. The average typist on a QWERTY keyboard can go anywhere from 40 words per minute to 60 words per minute, with the fastest possible speed maxing out at about 120 for short periods of time. The average English speaker usually speaks at a rate between 180 and all the way up to 300 plus. Professional stenographers can generally hold a constant rate of 200 to 300 words per minute, with the world record for machine steno in English at 360 words per minute. That's 6 words per second. So why exactly is steno so much faster than QWERTY? Let's get one thing straight. Steno is not typing. Typing is when you get one character of output per one press of the keyboard, whereas in steno, you press multiple keys at the same time to make a steno outline, which must then go through a translation process to produce readable text. This is why court reporters call the act writing and not typing. Modern steno machines have varying form factors but utilize the same underlying layout. The keys correspond to phonemic values rather than letters, and certain combinations of keys are used to substitute for sounds that are not present. Multiple keys can be pressed simultaneously like a chord on a piano, but they do not get mixed up because they always appear in a predetermined order in a chord, left to right, top to bottom. Before computerized steno machines, these chords would come out on a long strip of paper with each row corresponding to a stroke or a chord. The stenographer would then have to go back and transcribe these notes back to regular text. So if I were going to write the phrase, hello, how are you doing today? I would first write the stroke for hello, which is HL, and then how, which is HOU, RU, which is RU, TKAOG for doing, TOD, which is today, and KWPL, which is my stroke for the question mark. One misconception about steno is that the stenographer just mindlessly types what they hear while the computer figures out the rest. But actually, a clean transcript is dependent on the user's ability to correctly recall and execute the strokes they predefined in their personal dictionary. So if he or she forgets how a certain word is defined or has poor finger placement, it comes out completely wrong. So that's my video on how steno works. You can visit my blog at stenographer.com if you want to read my steno ramblings, or follow me on Twitter at stenographer to see what I'm currently up to. If you're interested in maybe picking up steno for yourself, check out openstenoproject.org for more information on how to download Clever and get started learning steno. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching.
So that was Stanley Sakai. He's a well-known stenographer, real-time captioner, and also a software engineer. He's an incredibly bright light in the court reporting community. I'm going to actually jump right in and show you, as soon as I can find wherever it's hiding, another, sorry, it all of a sudden disappeared. All right, here we go. Very quickly.
You who are new here, hello.
Oops.
And welcome.
This is another reporter. Actually, this is a court reporting student in Canada who's going to give you just a quick TikTok video of how the machine actually works.
Welcome to my updated Stenograph machine tour. This is the machine that court reporters use in a courtroom to dictate everything that is said in the courtroom. This side is the initial side of the keyboard. This side is the final side of the keyboard. To spell words, you push down the keys at the same time. This key right down the center is the asterisk key, and that deletes words. This machine plugs into my laptop, which has a software on it that translates everything I type. Court reporters actually call their act of typing writing. I'm a student right now, but when I finish my program, I'll be able to write at 225 words per minute. Feel free to comment what other kinds of videos you would like to see from me. For those
Okay, so we're going to hop back onto the PowerPoint. And Phyllis is going to take over from here.
So a lot of people don't understand that court reporting is a program that takes a college course. I've had people wonder, why do we need college to learn court reporting? And I think probably that's become evident just in the last few slides that you've viewed so far. The requirements differ from state to state, but in general, they are similar to California's. It usually takes between 2 and 4 years to become trained as a court reporter. And there are, at least in Washington, there is a bachelor's program for court reporting as well. So at minimum, though, to become a California certified shorthand reporter, you have to complete a minimum of 2,300 hours of steno machine practice and dictation, plus 660 hours of academic instruction. Pass a 4-voice dictation steno machine skills at 200 words per minute for 12 to 13 minutes with 97.5% accuracy. And the reason that you have to do 4-voice is because sometimes we do have 2 or 3 and even 4 people trying to talk at the same time. We have a questioning attorney, a witness, maybe 2 or 3 counsel objecting, and we're trying to understand and get down what they're saying at all times. You also have to pass the English exam and vocabulary and medical and legal terminology courses. Most of the time it's a 2-year program, but sometimes even though it's a 2-year program, it still takes people 4 years to complete the program. It's not an easy program. Then you have to pass professional practices exam. You know, you have to be familiar with the laws and regulations, court rules, ethical conduct, and we have to follow all of those same kinds of rules just like attorneys do. Next slide, please. So there is oversight provided for CSRs in California and in, I think it's 26 states across the country. So in California, CSRs are licensed by the Court Reporters Board of California. And that's the test that I just spoke about. And like Bar Association in California, the Court Reporter Board is both the licensing and the disciplining body for overseeing all CSRs in the state. That's not how it is in all states. Some states, like Washington, it's done through the Department of Licensing. Other states, it's under the Supreme Court, like some bar associations are in some states, the same thing. And court reporters who hold advanced certifications through the National Court Reporters Association are required to maintain continuing education, CEUs. There are state associations, just like there are, all states have bar associations, and then there's a national association, just like the ABA, and NCRA is the national association. And the NCRA regulates court reporter certs that they offer through their association, which are slightly different than the state associations. So next slide, please. And CSRs, they have professional standards of practice. Again, all states are slightly different. And the National Court Reporters Association has their standards as well, but they do have a duty of accuracy, impartiality, truthfulness, a duty of confidentiality and security, a duty of ethical professional conduct, a duty to protect the record and consumers, a duty to control the chain of custody of their transcripts from the moment they create them until they certify their accuracy and deliver them to the clients who requested them, a duty to follow court, government, and CCP rules and statutory codes, whether it's a federal case, which has different rules than state cases. We have to be fully aware of all of the rules in the jurisdiction that the case is filed in. Next slide, please. Oh, before we go to the poll, I wanted to mention one other thing that's related to licensing, and that is that court reporters, like attorneys, can lose their license if they are engaged in something that's outside of their professional practice. And recently in Alabama, a court reporter who was unlicensed at the time her license was expired, all of the transcripts that were provided to counsel during the time that her license were expired, she had to give refunds for all of the transcripts to everybody. So we do have to take great care to mind our licensing requirements. Okay, we're going to have a poll.
Thank you, Phyllis. So please select the correct answers below.
We have about 60% of people voted, waiting on a few more people. 70%. And actually, probably some of those people are the panelists who probably won't vote, right? So we're at 80%. Wait for the percentage to go up a little bit more. There we go. Okay, we're going to close the poll.
Okay. So,
Okay. So yeah, we're at about 90%, so that's pretty good. So we're going to close the poll and I'll release the results.
okay, great. So congratulations to the majority. For the one person, it appears, who believes there's no regulatory body overseeing court reporters. As Phyllis said, in fact, 26 states, there actually is. And in California, it's the Court Reporters Board. And there are ethical standards that must be met. The court reporters, if they don't meet them, if for any reason they don't meet them, they can be fined or what's the word, discharged. They can lose their licenses. We'll go into that a little bit more later.
And the license also protects the record, because only a licensed court reporter that has a certificate on the back of the transcript can submit that certificate or can submit that transcript as evidence in a trial, or it can be used as evidence. It is basically speaking for the truth of everything said in that transcript. So that license protects the evidence.
That's right. It protects the evidence, it protects the case, and it protects the clients and the law firms. So if there's no license in the certificate page, which is the very last page at the end of a transcript, then you've got, you may have sworn testimony, but you don't have a certified transcript, which also is going to impact appeals. So types, there are several types of court reporting. The first one, as I mentioned, is stenographic machine writing and reporting. Here's another one of my former apprentices. She now has a national and a state certification. Well, it's actually been for about 3 years. There's also, it's little known, I mean, court reporting itself is little known and understood, but voice writing is even less so. I first became aware of a voice writer when I managed the San Francisco office of a court reporting agency, and a national agency, and we had 42 offices at the time. And I needed a deposition covered in a remote area. I believe it may have been Pennsylvania. And I discovered voice writing at the time. Now, I became a court reporter because I fell in love with the original Perry Mason TV show. And that was where I first saw a voice writer. And whenever Perry Mason had a case on a military base. So voice writing, or also known as mask writing, they have been around in the military on the East Coast, in Canada and other countries, and have since spread west. Washington State, where Phyllis is from, certifies voice writers, as does Nevada and a few other states. So here is an apprentice, one of my former apprentices. She also got certified late last year, and not in California, however, There's no path to certification in California as of yet. She got certified in the state of Georgia. So she holds 2 certifications, certified voice reporter, CVR, and a certified court reporter, which is similar to the CSR in California. So another way that you may have seen court reporters is when they provide closed well, not closed captioning. It is actually for at events. Like if you've ever been to a conference, a convention, or some other in-person event. Here, for example, is internationally known and beloved real-time captioner and card provider, Jade King, at a Microsoft Summit event where you can only see the tops of the heads of only a few, but actually in that huge room, there were thousands of people. So she was in a darkened room in the back, watching and listening to the speaker. And you can see where she's capturing the record on her machine. And then there is her laptop, which instantly transcribes her stenographic shorthand into English. And then it's broadcast to the audience under the PowerPoint. And broadcast captioning, I'm sure you're aware of when you watch TV, all television programs are required, live broadcast programs are required to have captioning. And here is Stanley Sakai again, the young man whose video you watched. He holds 2 certifications, also certified court reporter from the state of Washington, and the registered professional reporter, which is given by the NCRA, the National Court Reporters Association. He speaks multiple languages, able to write in those multiple languages. He's a stenographer, a captioner, and a software engineer. And here he is at home capturing the record, and it's being broadcast to the news. Now here is an example of broadcast captioning, demonstrating the difference between a computer-generated captioning at the top and below a human captioner like Stan or Jade King. And you can see what an embarrassment that is, that the channel that utilized a AI captioning system during the inauguration bruised butthole instead of a country bruised but whole, WHOLE, which is what the human captioner wrote. So I'm going to, anyone have any questions about any of that? Does anyone on my panel wish to jump in and say anything else? Okay, so one moment. Phyllis, I believe you're taking over here.
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you about a real-time court reporting and what's involved in it. Leesa is going to do a demonstration with some of the students participating just a little bit later in this program. But what is real time? Next next slide, please. It's the instantaneous transcription of a court reporter's shorthand stenographic notes into English, available in person or online for review and annotation in real time on the viewer's desktop, computer, laptop, tablet, or smartphone. And every court reporter can't necessarily provide real time or doesn't. Only the very best court reporters are considered real-time court reporters. It takes a lot of attention and nerves to have everyone watching your work as you're doing it. If you've ever found yourself typing with someone all of a sudden comes over your shoulder, you find your accuracy level seems to go down. I always do if someone's looking at me when I'm typing. And I have been a real-time reporter in the past. When I was younger, I no longer consider myself real-time, although I still write it for myself every day and will provide it if it needs to be provided. The other thing that happens with real-time reporting, because it is a more difficult undertaking, is that real-time reporters are paid more. They're paid extra money for their services, and that's because it is a stressful undertaking to write real-time and have your work displayed for everyone. Sometimes people, they don't understand exactly what we're doing, and when we're writing phonetically, and if a word doesn't come up transcribed, the attorneys will try to make a correction in the room to everyone. And we all say, just wait for the final. We're just writing real time right now, doing the best we can. Next slide, please. So we're learning a little bit about how real time works, but this slide shows what happens. But even before the machine sends it to the court reporter's laptop, we are listening and we are digesting the information that we're listening. Our brain is digesting real time what everyone's saying. Then our brain is writing it into syllables, arranging it into syllables as it's hearing what's being said. And then it translates those syllables to the steno language that you've seen. Once that happens, our brain then sends that down to our fingers, and then our fingers start writing on that machine. We can then see the text on the screen that you can see here on this machine, and or the court reporter's laptop, which they usually have right beside them to view as well. We can correct ourselves as we're writing, and we do. Once it hits our laptop, then it can go to the internet and go to laptops in other places around the country or in the room. Sometimes there might be 20 people in the room who are receiving your real-time feed as it's happening and viewing it. Sometimes experts are looking at real-time from different locations so that cases can be reviewed as they're happening, and they can be preparing for maybe the next day's testimony. So it really is it's almost magical, but there's a lot of technology that goes on between the court reporter hearing it and it going on their machine, stenographic machine, and then to the next place. One quick story I wanted to tell was in 1996, I believe, I was told anyway, I was the first court reporter to write real time and have it uploaded to the internet, and it was at Microsoft's campus in Redmond. I was connected to 12 different computers of employees at Microsoft who were viewing my steno and also making annotations along the way as it was streamed by satellite back and forth from the App Cafe in New York to Redmond, Washington. And that was in 1996 when a lot of people still weren't sure what the internet was. So it was a fairly intense thing to do. And it was as part of Microsoft's Encarta program. And Linda Ellerby hosted this broadcast with Rosie O'Donnell and Ben and Jerry from Ben and Jerry's Ice Cream and some other people very lively discussing sex in the media. So that's been going on since 1996 that we have been providing court reporting in such a technologically advanced way. Next slide, please. So this is just a couple of pictures of real time in action. from one of our well-known real-time court reporters. She's actually lives in the UK. And as you can see in the room in the lower right-hand corner, you can see all of her devices set up and all of the people who are viewing her real time as it's going on. And she has literally traveled all over the world providing real time in different settings, not just legal settings. Stan also provided real time for the Coachella festival, which is a big deal. And this looks like Leah is providing it for some sort of a festival in this photograph on the right-hand top side. So, and I've been able to travel also to Paris. I once real-timed proceeding where there was 250 scientists planning mankind out to the year 3000. And they were all giving their opinions with timers in hand, because there's so much information to impart, and every kind of specialist and expert you can imagine with their, 10 minutes of fame. So some of the things that we can do as court reporters outside the legal field are fascinating as well. Next slide, please. This is just a setup of Leah's remote captioning setup and what most court reporters captioning setups look like, and or even just remote reporting setups. We've got the writers, and we've got computers, and it's going from a writer to the computer straight sometimes to the television captioning program. So yeah, we are technology, that's for sure. And the next thing, I'm not sure if Anna is going to introduce Leesa, but we're going to do a demonstration for real time with Leesa, who is a fabulous, also well-known real-time reporter, and some students doing a demonstration for everyone.
Thank you, Phyllis. So those of you who have, if you have a tablet or you want to connect via your smartphone, here are the connection instructions if you'd like to receive it directly into your tablet. I don't think you're going to be able to, maybe you can have Zoom and this on your laptop or desktop. But if you are interested, there you are. And I'm going to stop sharing. And Christopher, do you have the connect up and running?
Can I just jump in really quick? So you're going to go to a screen, and there's going to be icons on both sides of the screen. And I just want the students to realize that I'm feeding you real-time information, but the icons on both sides of the screen allow you to highlight text, take notes, text. You can do word searches in them. I just put up some words just so you can see before we get started. But this is an active tool that you can be using, or your co-chair can be using during a deposition, a trial, arbitrations. This is a way to take the transcript from the morning into your breakout rooms, discuss it, research it. Your expert can be following along, pulling out information that's relevant to his expertise, doing real-time research for you and giving you notes back to ask about this or go into that area. My job is to get you the information, but these softwares are very attorney friendly and can be used for instant information for you to use. So it's not always perfect, hardly ever. And you'll see some words that sound alike, but maybe aren't spelled correctly the first time, but we go back and fix that later in an editing process that we do the transcripts before we certify them. So these are not certified transcripts. They cannot be used in court as evidence, and only my certified transcript at the end of the process is what you will use as evidence. So when they're ready, I'm ready.
Yes, please go. And I'm going to put the connection info in the chat. Professor Brockle, are your students ready?
Yes, I believe they should be. So we have Javier again, and then we also have Vidi. So Javier will be playing the attorney and Vidi will be playing the witness. And Anna, are you ready for them to start?
Yes, I'm entering the connection info in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Javier is muted.
Oh, Javier, yes, you might need to unmute yourself.
Thank you.
Okay, we're ready.
Okay, great. Go right ahead.
Ms. Ryan, please introduce yourself for the court.
My name is Darlene Ryan. That's Darlene. Ryan spelled Ryan.
And Ms. Ryan, where do you live?
I live in Steelton with my grandmother. I moved back to support
Your
her.
grandmother. Where were you before you moved to Steelton?
I was in college, but it wasn't really for me, so I moved back home.
And why are you in court today?
Well, Carson Grace sued me for crashing into him on September 4th, 2017.
Ms. Ryan, why were you going to the mall on September 4, 2017?
I was going to the mall to see Nat Romanoff for food. He's a college friend. He had the potential to get me like a job interview.
What time was the meeting?
5 p.m.
And at what time did you leave your house?
I left my house at 5:10 p.m.
So you were running late.
But I wasn't really in a rush. It wasn't so important.
Did your friend try to reach you?
Yeah, I didn't pick up the phone.
I'm sorry, Mom, I didn't hear that last question.
Did your friend try to reach you?
Yes, but I didn't pick up the phone.
And why didn't you pick up the phone?
I was driving. I don't pick up the phone when I drive.
When did you get your driver's license?
When I was 17 years old.
And did you pass the test the first time?
First try on the practical portion. I failed the written portion twice. Trick
First time.
questions, that stuff's hard.
Because
I'm sorry, sir, there was a bad connection. Can you repeat your question?
Did you pass the driver's license test the first time, Ms. Ryan?
I passed the practical portion on the first try, but then I failed the written portion twice.
Right.
Trick questions.
And did you get into any accidents before the crash?
Yes, I had a minor fender bender 3 months before the crash, but my case was reduced and it wasn't my fault.
How did that accident affect you?
Well, I drove more carefully after it, and honestly, I was quite paranoid.
Do you have any other bad memories with driving?
Yeah, my parents died in a motorcycle accident when I was young.
And how does that affect you?
Well, I'm always careful when I'm driving.
All right, Ms. Ryan, and that day, how was traffic?
That morning, traffic was light.
I mean, the day of the incident. What about the weather?
Oh, it was sunny and nice. I had my windows down when I was driving.
How was the parking?
There was a lot of parking available on the street.
And can you describe where you were coming and where
I was driving west on Webster Street, and Montana Max's was on my right. I was going to park on the right side in front of the motorcycle.
Was anyone else there?
Well, Nat was coming out of the bar and she was waving to me, and Tony Stork was also there close to the motorcycle, but he looked like he was walking away.
No further questions.
Thank you, Javier and Vidi. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Lisa. I saw a few areas where it was really, you could barely even hear it. So thanks for interrupting to clarify the record. And if anyone has any questions about that or comments, please put them in the chat. Actually, we do want to have a conversation. So, Professor Brockle, did you want to guide this conversation, the open discussion? What did you see? What did you observe?
Yes, we wanted to see what did people observe about good and bad communication during the questions and during the answers. Trying to see if I see any hands up. I don't know if I can see everybody. Let's see. Well, I think it might be because I have people, my video as participants are hidden. So if you have an answer for whether what you noticed about the communication during the questioning, go ahead and either raise your hand or just unmute yourself and you can just let us know what you saw.
Hi there, it's Stephanie Knights. I noticed that the reporter had to ask again exactly what was said, and she slowed down a bit and repeated it much more clearer for him.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
I noticed, hi, my name is Jessica. I'm a court reporting student. I noticed that the lawyer and the witness would talk on top of one another sometimes, which is very natural. They would kind of cut each other off.
That's also a good one. Thank you. Anyone else notice anything else that was, bothered them to watch or, was hard to hear, anything like that? For example, did it affect you guys at all when you could, the volume of the witness or the pace of the speaker? It's a tough crowd. So I think, if we want to just kind of highlight a couple items, right? There was probably points where people saw the witness kind of whispering or talking very low, right? That makes it more difficult for your court reporter to record what that person is saying if their volume is not a level that they can hear and accurately record the words. There was also a point that I noticed where the attorney, Javier, was speaking very, very fast, right? He asked her a question, I think it was like, where do you live? What do you do? And it was just so quick. Court reporters are very, very fast, but obviously for them to be able to stick with the pace that the attorney's speaking and keep having to fluctuate and try to speed up, that's very difficult, right? Anna and Phyllis and Chris, did you guys notice any other things that I missed?
No, you said, did anybody hear a dog barking?
I heard some papers rustling as well. So that was also, it's always hard when you have a microphone and there's anything that comes out of it other than the voice, right? So like you said, a dog barking, papers rustling, that can be very distracting and hard for the reporters to be able to hear and transcribe.
Right, and we're going to go into that next. I'm looking at the time and we have a lot to cover yet.
Okay, so I'll let you get back to it. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you very much for guiding that, and go ahead and go back to screen.
Yeah, do we want to take questions at the end? Because I have been,
yes.
Okay,
let's take
so let me, we're getting to issues that, court reporting issues that pertain to your record, and you just saw some of this, so it's going to be pretty easy. And you'll see this come up again in a few slides too, but when you have lots of people speaking at once, too fast or in a way that's not clear, you bring our 225 words per minute certified speed down to 0 words per minute. So you saw how fast Stan's video was. Imagine trying to type something like that. And then people reading fast. I'm going to get into this again, but people almost always read faster than they speak, and it can make our job much easier if you slow them down. Also, ask people to give clear answers, because if you get something that's like or it can make the record very unclear. And so everybody in the room will know what happened, but it can be unclear when people go back to read it. And someone else from your firm who wasn't at the deposition or the trial or whatever it is might not understand. Next slide. Let's see. So we're going to get into background noises. Same deal. If Rover is barking all deposition, it is going to drown out very important testimony. Attorneys expecting us to work without breaks. I'm going to throw out some numbers to you in a few slides, but let me just preface it by saying we need breaks. Describing demonstrative actions. I got hit here, here, and here. This is again something that I've had to watch happen from the sidelines, where I'm basically supposed to take it down and not interrupt, but I know that when it comes out on paper, it's going to look very strange. So you want demonstrative, descriptions. Their head, their shoulder. What are they pointing at? Are they pointing at parts on a map? Describe it. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk a little bit about remote depositions. So, and this can be on Zoom or whatever your preferred platform is. The first issue is always Wi-Fi. Ethernet is always faster than Wi-Fi. So it's if you're plugging in a wire. You can solve a lot of problems just by having a wired connection. Poor audio from people using a speakerphone. I see this in court quite a bit. Somebody decides to tune in from the street and you get cars honking and people yelling and all sorts of things, and you miss stuff, or you miss testimony and you have to stop the proceedings. So where possible, you want the witness in an indoor setting and no speakerphone or no background stuff going on. Failure to give appearances. We see this a lot again in virtual court. Maybe John or Mary or somebody logs on and they just type their name as John or Mary. We don't necessarily know who John or Mary is. So come on the record, give your full name, give your firm or your address, and let us know who you represent. So whispered objections. If we don't hear you object, it might not get on the record. So make sure that you object clearly. Next slide. We talked about people speaking all together, and we talked about background noise. Let's talk about expecting us to mark exhibits, though, and take testimony at the same time. We absolutely do everything we can to give good customer service, but we have our hands down on this little machine, this stenotype. So just please be mindful of that when asking us to do duties in addition to taking down the record. Next slide. We're going to get into court reporter tips to make the best record. Always give us the case information. A lot of times you're going to know your case backwards and forwards. The reporter's going in blind a lot of the time. All we know is that, we have to take down what you say or what's being said. So again, important medical information or anything that you would expect the average person might not have heard before. The next three all kind of go together, and like I said, you've noticed them coming up a few times. Speak clearly, take a breath, and don't talk at the same time. The world record for speaking is something like 580 words a minute, and the fastest stenographer so far is about 360 words a minute. And most of us start our career at 225 words a minute. So in the end, having good cadence is going to make it much easier to keep up with you. And, if you're wondering if you can outtalk us, you absolutely can, but it's not really a contest. And I'd like to get into taking breaks one more time. At the end of a long day, it's possible that my hands have moved 20,000 to 40,000 times. We call them strokes. And so that could be 95 times in a minute if you average it out. So creating natural breaks can really help the reporter get it down, and ultimately leads to you getting back your transcript faster. Next slide.
Actually, I'd like to jump on that.
Oh, sure.
Christopher. Most people, including attorneys, listen to the gist of what is being said. They're not listening for every word. Let me stop here for a moment. Or every syllable, as court reporters are. How many people, raise your hands if you play an instrument? You can show your video or put it in the chat. Raise your hands. Okay. You play an instrument, Paula? Megan? Great. Okay. Now imagine playing that instrument all day long. All day long. You'd be exhausted, right? Totally exhausted. So imagine that you're doing it without music, because court reporters walk in, they never know what's going to be said, that they're going to be capturing. And so you have nothing that you've prepared for. You're listening on the fly, and it's like playing a symphony all day long. Thanks, Chris.
Up to, whoops. Yeah, so it's a lot of similar stuff here. Don't let the witness talk over you. That goes with speaking at the same time from the last slide. If they're talking over you, the chances are good that we're not hearing one of you, and we want everybody to be represented. So make sure that you're not being talked over and you're not talking over somebody. Speak up. A lot of people go into proceedings with what I used to laugh about and call witness syndrome. And what that is, or what I would describe it as, is if you have really important stuff to say or ask, but they start whispering. So you have to be mindful if that starts happening to you or your witness, because it makes it harder for reporters, juries, everybody. Documents. Most people read faster than they talk, and the fastest speed reader claimed, 80 pages per minute or something like that. So you really want to slow down when a document's being read. Also, if a document is a text message and they're using abbreviations that sound like words, like the letter U for the word you might want to let the court reporter know how that should be reflected in the transcript if it's not standard English. Finally, again, you want to ask for clear and verbal responses. I kind of breezed over this. Yes is much clearer than mm-hmm. No is much clearer than mm-mm. And in the same vein, you want to be a little careful how you ask questions. A lot of people ask a question and they end it with, is that right? Or is that correct? And you could get a question like, you don't know who hit you, is that right? And if the witness says no, is it no, they don't know, or is it no, that's not right? These kinds of things, again, I end up on the sideline and I see it happen all the time. Doesn't have to happen to you. Next slide.
And Chris, just to interrupt really briefly, Anna, I just
Sure.
sent you a question privately. If you can just take a look at it, just to make sure we, keep everything efficient. So Chris, go right ahead. I was just making sure Anna was aware that I sent her a message. Thank you.
Sure, great. So for civil stuff, the deposition notices can carry a lot of weight. You want to try to make sure the record is the best it could be. So you want to specify that it'll be stenographically reported. You also want to consider specifying that the witness remains stationary. We've had a lot of court appearances and depots now where someone's driving or shopping or having dinner at a restaurant. And for an idea of what that might look like in reality, I think we have a video for you, Anna. Can we still play that, or are we out of time? You may be muted.
Thank you, I am. So Professor Brockle, are we out of time?
If you want to be able to finish the last couple of slides, I think that's fine. But I think what we might need to do is, and this is what I messaged you, so it's not like it's a big secret, but I messaged you just to ask if maybe all the questions we got in the chat, if instead of taking a lot of time to answer those verbally, if we can have you as panelists write out your answers to those, and we can send them to the RSVP list of people that wrote in for the the RSVP to the event with your written answers. So if anyone has any other questions, I think that might be the way to do it, is input those into the chat and we will send those after the event. That way, we're probably going to go over another 5 or 10 minutes here. So if you're able to hang for the rest of the event, and we'll do the question answers in written form to you by email. Is that okay, Anna?
Answering.
Okay, you have. Okay, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. So yeah, so we do that. I think we'll be okay. 5 or 10 minutes. If folks can stay a little longer, we appreciate it.
Okay, thank you so much. So here's an example of what you don't want.
taken an oath this morning to tell the truth, and I understand you will tell the truth today. Is that correct? Yeah. Sorry, ma'am, are you in a grocery store? Well, if you're gonna ask me to do questioning in the middle of the damn day, the grocery store is where I'm going to be. So. Okay, that's a first.
Counsel, this is not ideal.
Well, I think we're okay to proceed. I can hear the witness just fine. Ma'am, can you tell us what happened in the incident that's the subject of this action? Yeah, so I was like in a grocery store. I was just reaching to the top shelf. The whole shelf came tumbling down on me, on top of me, right there. And I wasn't really, whoopsie daisy. Yeah, can I please get a grande, what you're about?
So
So clearly, a court reporter is not just going to get up and walk out. The court reporter is going to tell the attorney, whatever's going on, that they're not able to capture the record or whatever, and give them multiple tips that there's a problem. That's a dramatic expression, but based on a true story.
yeah, I was going to say that we're showing this to you as kind of a joke, but it's all too, it's all too real, and it does happen. And there's even been a court proceeding that I heard about where a person was basically told by a police officer they couldn't be parked where they were parked for their Zoom court appearance. So it really does happen, and you really want to try to stop that from happening to you. So anyway, getting into the best record on Zoom or whatever your preferred platform is. Again, you want to check all your connections, make sure the Ethernet's plugged in. You can do Wi-Fi if you have to, but again, Ethernet always faster. Mute yourself when you're not speaking or during breaks. We've seen videos of people cursing into an open mic and doing all sorts of stuff. So it's advantageous. It cuts out interruptions and background noises. On the flip side of that, always make sure you unmute yourself if you're objecting, because again, if we don't hear your objection, then it's not recorded, and that's a problem. Again, take a breath in between each question and answer. A lot of remote platforms will just drop the speaker, or they'll broadcast them both at the same time, and you won't hear either one. Pay attention to the reporter as much as you can. A lot of us are professionals, and we know that you have a job to do. We don't need to be the center of attention. But, let's say all those devices you saw in the picture a few slides back decide to go down at the same time. Now, nobody's taking down your record. And at that point, we need to rely on you to stop the proceeding. So try to give an eye on what the reporter's doing every now and then. And yeah, next slide.
So Professor Brockle, that ends that portion. If you could please launch poll number 2. Please select all the true answers below.
Okay, I think we're at about 75%. Okay, we're getting up there close to 80. So we'll give you about 5 more seconds to get your votes in. 3, 2, 1. Excellent. We've got about 90%. So I'm going to end this and then share the results with you. So it looks like very much a lot of people voted for court reporters need to capture every word. And then a few folks chose court reporters should be seen, not heard. Sorry, that should be a T after the no there, but I think you guys all got that. So Anna, I'll let you take over on the discussion on this one.
Thank you. So for those people who believe reporters should be seen and not heard, that's kind of the mindset across the country. The reality is the core reporters, and this is what I spoke about briefly earlier, core reporters are legally and ethically required to capture and protect the record. In California, I actually wrote an article, if you go to In Vino Veritas, scroll down to the bottom, and Professor Brockle has input about 5 articles that I've written. The latest one was published by the Bar Association of San Francisco, and it's Silent No More, Core Reporters Speak Up for the Record. We are legally required to stop and interrupt if for any reason the record is jeopardized. We must speak up or we can lose our licenses. So we need to be seen and very definitely heard. Okay. So that's it for our presentation. If you have any questions, please do put them in the chat. We are going to respond to them. I believe we are out of time. And we want to thank Professor Brockle for the invitation to speak today. And I thank my panel for doing an outstanding job of presenting. And Leesa, amazing.
I think everybody did great. Yeah. Yes, excellent job. Thank you. So thank you to all of our panelists, really. And really quick before everyone jumps out, because everyone's got to go, I did want to do give away a free raffle. This is going to be a speech coaching session with a longtime professor that we have at Golden Gate University, a free 30-minute session for speech coaching. She'll work with you on anything you want. If you have a nervous tic, if you seem to say between every single sentence, she'll help you with any of those things. So what I'm going to do now is, Chloe, if you're still on, if you can just pick a number between 1 and 32, and I'm just gonna if you just pick a random number between those.
Yep, 17.
Okay, 17. So I'm gonna count, and I won't count the panelists. I'm gonna count 17 here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So we have JMCG. So JMCG, you are being gifted a free 30-minute coaching session with Professor Harriet Scott. And so what I'll do is, if JMCG, if you can just either private message me or Clodagh in the chat, we can just let us know your email address and your name, and that way we can have the professor contact you to set that up. So anyways, thank you.
Professor Brockle, actually, I'd like to offer a coaching session for any participants who would like to experience a connection practice. I'm a certified connection practice coach. We do a deep dive into any issue or situation that you've got in your life that you would like some support. It's about understanding your feelings and your underlying needs, and you can get a tremendous insight. It can be very transformative. So
I love that. Yeah, I'll do a random generator for that too. So Chloe, if you can do a number between 1 and 25, just randomly choose one.
Yep, 13.
Okay, so start here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Mike Hamilton. So Mike Hamilton, you're being gifted a session. Is it with you specifically, right, Anna?
Yes.
Yeah, so a session with Anna. So go ahead and do the same thing. If if we don't have your email in the RSVP, your name's pretty clear, but if we don't, just private message one of us and we'll make sure we get you in connection with Anna. So again, thank you to our panelists. This was very interesting and very, eye-opening for a lot of the attorneys too in the room and students to be able to see, the purpose of a court reporter, the things we do, right? Not to drive you guys crazy, and to make sure that our record is very clear. So thank you all again for being here today and giving us this presentation. And again, panelists, the panelists are going to be receiving all of your chat questions. If they didn't get answered, we'll make sure to email them out later in written form. So thank you again, and everybody, we hope you have an excellent rest of the week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. And thank you, Chloe.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for coming.